Hello and welcome to The Inverted Castle, a podcast about Metroidvania games. I'm Thomas Blight, a beautiful mind, and with me is my co-host, Eric Fox, a slightly older and surlier version of myself.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you make me the ugly brain. I mean, it's true, but...
And we're talking about Axiom Verge today, a game that came out in 2015, developed by Thomas Happ and also self-published.
Yeah, as it proudly stated in its end credits, developed solely by Thomas Happ.
Yeah.
This game is very clearly inspired by Metroid and Metroid specifically, but with a couple of twists, definitely, to kind of make it, individualize itself amongst its peers. It came out in 2015, which had a lot of games we'd already played before, notably Ori and Environmental Station Alpha.
Yep.
How do we want to get started here?
I guess should go with the premise of the game. So, you just wake up in a strange environment, a very Metroid-like environment. It's a lot more body horror-esque.
It's fleshy.
Yeah.
It's pseudo Giger, HR Giger, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's a little aliens.
Not full, grotesquerie, but there's definitely some, these are fleshy computer gods.
Yeah.
The unholy matrimony of man and machine, or biomechanical monsters.
And then you die. And then you find out that you get revived, and your main character is a normal dude from Earth who takes this pretty well given the circumstances, but is definitely not okay with things.
Yeah, his name is Trace, and I'm pretty sure he has a last name. I don't remember it, so whatever. His name is Trace Axiom Verge, and he's a little smarmy when he's talking to the voice inside his head who's guiding him through this, the machine elder god Elsa Nova. But for the most part, he's kind of just well, there's nothing else to do. Let's take this alien gun and slay demons, I guess.
Yeah.
Although he doesn't really want to kill them, they just kind of leave him no choice. The first few bosses label him as the demon, who this character named Athetos has told them to kill.
Yeah.
But yeah, it turns out that communication is impossible. So, video game, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I skipped right over the whole laser lab explosion thing, which turns out to be a fake out later.
Yeah, spoiler alert. The
oh yeah,
half a minute of just him working in a lab, an explosion happens, and then the game starting. That's a misdirect, red herring, as it were. Somewhat, it's relevant to the backstory, but it is not, in fact, what led you here.
Yeah.
Here being planet, alternate dimension called Sudra.
That's odd. It's both fleshy and Data-y.
Yes, Data specifically. Instead of this being a space situation, this is more of a alternate dimension within the game code kind of alien aspect, I guess. It's hard to describe, but it is a game that in terms of its presentation is very leaning on the fact that, this is a video game and one of your main verbs is corrupting data.
Yeah, so you end up helping these beings called the Rusalki, who you meet as essentially giant heads attached to tentacles.
Yeah, if you've seen Darkseid or Giger's alien women type things, they look like that.
Yeah, or it really makes me think of Genova in that one cutscene in Final Fantasy VII.
Sure, Genova, Elsa Nova. There might have been some inspiration there.
I doubt it. It's just the Sephiroth reaching for woman who has either tubes or tentacles from their head.
Who among us has not reached for a woman?
Yeah. Anyway, the Rusalki are slowly dying because Athetos has cut off their power.
And the people who used to live on this planet, the Sudrans, they're just all dead. Athetos created a big plague, and seems like you're the only non-machine god that can survive it currently.
Yeah, the Sudrans might be the ghouls that you fight.
Certainly, it would make sense that they're the maddened husks of creatures that used to be here. It'd make sense, but as far as conversible, sapient beings, there's the machine gods, there's Athetos and you, and that's it.
And also, there are piles and piles of corpses in a couple of the rooms. So that's presumably the Sudrans.
Indeed, yes.
So, like, you proceed through the story, fixing the Rusalki's issues and slowly uncovering more and more about what the heck is happening here.
Yeah, who's this Athetos? Why is everyone dead? What's stopping them from crossing the breach, which is like this planet is surrounded by a dimensional barrier, all these corrupted pixels, the atmosphere and all that. That's what's keeping all of the Rusalki trapped.
Yeah, that seems to be one of the few things that the Rusalki are actually susceptible to is losing power and also the breach.
They need to be in their main dimension. Seems like a skill issue to me. But
and Athetos is using a thing called the breach attractor to keep them at bay. Although it's a little unclear because Athetos, I thought, also wants to open up.
Okay, so I believe the case is he needs to get rid of these machine gods first, as they represent too much of a danger to what he would classify as humanity. So before he basically brings the walls down, he needs to get them killed, and then he can go on and do what he wants to do, because he styles himself a savior figure.
Yeah, and in notes, he starts to come across that he believes that the Sudrans are the remnants of a once golden age civilization.
Yeah.
That has become fearful of its past.
Yeah, at some point their civilization collapsed, all of its records rendered into myth, and it's basically just everything regarding their super technology of the past, then the machine gods, who it's not clear whether the Rusalki are them or merely resembled them before the Sudrans actually dismantled them first. Basically, it's verboten to engage with them until Athetos showed up, and when he started to do his big plague, they revived the Rusalki. And so, and after that, the Rusalki had this big war. The plague still killed all the Sudrans, and they're at a bit of a stalemate with the Rusalki slowly dying when you show up as their last-ditch effort.
Yep.
A lot of this game is you finding out backstory as you play, rather than much happening actually in the game.
And sometimes you first have to learn how to read a language.
Not as often as you'd think, at least as far as like what's necessary to understand and beat the game, but...
Oh yeah, you can beat the game without reading either of the other languages, but it won't make much sense if you don't.
Yeah, a little bit. I think you can mostly glean from like what's on screen without knowing exactly who a Sudran is. Just, oh, Athetos killed all the people here, and that's bad. And also, here's like very late game revelation. You are Athetos, but from the past.
Yes. Also, Athetos has been cloning himself. You are, I guess, the 13th Athetos, I think?
Yes and no, I believe. So you are specifically a clone before he became Athetos. Basically, is the little eggs that you wake up in every time you die, these pods, store genetic information, and the Rusalki basically grabbed a bit of Athetos from before he went genocidal as one of the few people who won't get killed by his specific plague, because, you know, obviously he doesn't want to die from it, so he did not make himself vulnerable to it.
Oh, he's vulnerable to it. That's why he's hooked up to life support in the final boss. And you're vulnerable to it too. That's why you have that fever dream.
Right. It was like the nano gates that Elsinova had in you. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. People's speculation goes a little wild in this game.
This is a lore game at a certain point, and you know, you can have some fun, but as far as what's in the text, yeah, so the backstory of Athetos, how you became him and all that's crap. The very first cutscene, that one that didn't matter, well, it matters to Athetos because he spends a year blind and crippled in like hospitals and all that. But while he's blind, he truly sees the universe as it is, and he develops Physics 2, the sequel to Physics. This new theory of everything. Scientists hate him. Literally, he gets like banned from the scientific community. But he knows the truth, and he becomes kind of a like controversial figure. All that stuff. He finds a way to cross this dimensional breach he discovered into Sudra, and the pods that they have there cure him of his blindness and all that crap. And he thinks, great, humanity needs this. And then he sees the Sudrans as their backwards technology, or like super technology is evil, not embracing it, and thinks, crap, these people are standing in the way of the greater good. Time to do a genocide.
Yeah. Sorry, I wanted to jump in there a little bit.
Sure. Sorry.
So the part that is your shared memories is that you invented physics 2.
Yes.
Like, you got crippled, got blind, invented physics 2, found a way to make a portal to Sudra somehow, got into one of these healing machines, and got healed by it. And then, so that's where Trace gets stored.
Yes.
Right? He gets lifted out of his wheelchair into one of the eggs, and then Athetos was healed then and went back to Earth. Trace's data gets later used from that point.
Okay.
And then later in his career, Athetos comes back and is determined to conquer Sudra and use their Golden Age technology, with the implications that things have not been going well on Earth.
I see. I completely missed the return to Earth that Athetos did.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's however many years older. My understanding is that that's literally time that he spent on Earth, not on Sudra.
I thought he was also being basically kept alive on Sudra as well for many, many, many years. Like this war with Rusalki has itself lasted long enough.
I don't know how long it's actually lasted. I don't have a great sense of that.
There is much speculation in the comments.
Yeah.
It's not particularly important, or at the very least for my particular enjoyment of the game. The main takeaway is you're him but split, and so Athetos is mean, grumpy, and genocidal, and you kind of don't want to kill your clone.
Yeah.
But, you kind of also don't really, because you don't have the same experiences, I guess, don't reach the same conclusion, re killing Sudrans for the greater good.
You haven't been embittered by being rejected by the scientific community, I guess.
Oh, man. Yeah, bullied nerds. They're the amount of times they become the big bad, I'm telling you.
And, yeah, so Athetos created other clones. Those other clones eventually mutate into all of the bosses that you fight.
Yes.
Why exactly those mutate? I don't know. It's not super clear. But either Athetos was experimenting on them, or there's just something bad with his cloning setup.
Proximity to the breach, maybe that's affecting it.
I don't know. There's a note where two different Athetoses are talking, and one of them is saying both, like, I am Uruk and I am Athetos.
Yeah. They're kind of diverging personalities, I guess, like becoming individuals.
Well, not even that. It's like one of them is holding two identities in his head as he changes.
Yeah, they're not in a great way. And in fact, when you start succumbing to the plague, as you kind of approach the final zone, there's this huge hallucination segment that Trace goes through, which was like pretty cool as a rare set piece in one of these games. You don't process like reality right. Like the map isn't actually how it is as you explore later. And then you get to the boss fight, but instead of you fighting the boss, you are the boss. It's actually just the first boss you fight versus a computer controlled Trace.
Yeah.
You're going through how they kind of perceive things, like everything's inverted. They called you demon because from their perspective, you're the hulking biomechanical monster. It was a neat thing that it was a change up in the gameplay I wasn't expecting at the time. Obviously, both of us are playing this for the second time here.
Yes, but it was a neat little moment of him tripping balls.
I mean, yeah.
Talking to walls, you know?
Yeah, he was originally, chasing another Trace, essentially. He sees that brown lab coat in the distance. I'm like, oh my god, what's going on here? But then after that, it's kind of like the last item hunt before you confront Athetos. This is a instance of a problem I have with Trace's writing is being a little too smarmy, where Athetos makes his case, being like, I had to do it. The greater good was too enticing. Need to kill the Sudrans. Will you join me? And then Trace is like, let me think about it. Hell no. I think that's verbatim, or close enough.
It's pretty close.
It's just a weird tone thing for like discussing, hey, can you forgive my genocide? And being like, screw you, old man.
I mean, it does sound a lot like something Sonic the Hedgehog would say.
Apparently his voice sounds more like Otacon from Metal Gear Solid, but that's like a I think that's just like a weird interview excerpt that I saw on the wiki. But he's definitely that kind of nerd.
Yeah. And then the whole time, Trace has been like, hey, let's not kill him. Let's just shut down his plan, let you get what you want. And then the moment that you shut down his plan, the Rusalki step in and kill him.
Yeah, we can't let him live. And then Athos is also just like, yeah, it makes sense, Trace. They have to kill me.
Look, man, just let this happen.
We're going to have to kill this guy, Trace. Damn.
Trace, you only wanted to kill me a little bit? Sorry, that's not how it works.
Yeah, we round up in these scenarios.
Yeah, and then they send you to sleep?
Yeah, Elsinova says, yeah, we're going to send you back to Earth for sure. And Trey's like, how's that even work? Don't worry, just shut your eyes and it'll all be cool. And then Trace does wake up, like as though no time had passed after the lab explosion, but he's not blind or anything. Or so it seems. Because, like, I think that cutscene plays after the credits.
Yeah.
The credits of Trace just lying asleep on top of an elder god. In the 100% ending, within Trace's, that's pretty much confirmed to be a dream, Athos shows up and says, you gotta wake up, Trace, and shoots him. Sequel bait.
Yes.
And
dun,
yeah,
dun,
that's it. Dun dun dun. I don't know. It's a very high concept storyline.
Yeah.
With like not a lot of time spent on technobabble, but enough on things like breach attractors and address disruptions, nanogates.
At one point, Elsinova just remotely kills you.
Yeah, you say like, actually, no, fuck this, fuck you. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, one of the speculations is that what makes up Trace is actually the cluster of nanomachines from the Rusalki that sided with Athetos that they killed.
Okay. Oh, that's fun. I forget her name. Like there's Ophelia, Elsinova, one other that doesn't really talk to you, and one that's dead.
Yeah.
Maybe it was that one, but that may as well be true.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a speculation. I guess talking about game mechanics might be a good thing to move on to.
Yeah, because game mechanics also kind of tie into these like high-minded science fiction concepts of like dimensionality and space age weaponry, I guess.
So, I mean, despite being pretty obviously Metroid inspired, I found that in its traversal abilities, it wasn't actually being that much of aping Metroid.
It does to a point, but it stops, like where Metroid would give you things like a double jump and like bombs, speed booster, all that. This one has more of a like manipulate your environment focus / like the morph ball is a separate entity from you rather than you just being small.
I guess it does interesting things with the like starting point of Metroid.
You don't get a space jump or double jump. You can kind of glitch infinite height, but it's really not where the focus is. The focus is more on a bit more actual puzzle solving actually than Metroid ever does.
I suppose.
Some of the like more obscure pickups you can get definitely require you to manipulate things in a way that is not obvious.
That's fair. Yeah, so we talked a little bit before about the address disruptor.
Yeah, probably the key feature that defines this game, or at least separates it from the rest.
So it corrupts areas and enemies. Corrupting an enemy will change its behavior, frequently making them easier to fight once they're corrupted, or sometimes an armored enemy needs to be corrupted to be vulnerable. Sometimes it makes an enemy start breaking blocks.
Yeah, every enemy has a different behavior. Like basically their sprite becomes all jumbled, like as if their actual like data had been corrupted, like you're playing an old game and you tilt the cartridge. It's a pretty good effect. I like it a lot. But every enemy has unique behavior. So as you're saying, there might be an enemy in a wall, and if you corrupt them, breaks through, and hey, secret passage. There's one that changes all this of the same enemy in a room so that when you kill one, you kill them all. There's one that you need for a puzzle later where when you corrupt it and then move through a screen transition, it stays in the same position on screen in the next room, which you need in order to basically teleport an enemy to be able to break blocks or hit a switch over there. Like, yes, there are some puzzles where you need to get the right version of an enemy at the right spot in order to get the goodie. And there are many goodies, but We'll kind of get into that after the main upgrades, I guess.
Yeah. My one main complaint about the corrupt is that it's very hard to tell at a glance what it will do. Like, you just kind of have to try it out, and then sometimes it's not even very clear afterward what it did.
Yeah, speaking of the enemy that stays in the same zone when you transfer rooms, I'm someone who doesn't leave until the enemies are dead, so I didn't know about that until I looked it up.
Yeah. I don't even remember this enemy, so I don't think I got whatever that item was. And
It was the very last zone, just a random extra goodie. But if you're already like on the path to beat the game, yeah, it's very skippable.
yeah.
But I can sort of see why, like, it's easy enough. It is like one of the main buttons that you have is to make your gun fire out this wave of corruption. So experimentation, like, I'm actually pretty cool with. Just, see what it does. And it's like part of the joy of this game is, hey, new enemy. What does it do A? And also, what does it do when it is all fucked up and weird?
Yeah. Other traversal abilities, there's a drill that comes from your gun that also sort of doubles as a melee weapon. I was playing on hard this time and actually found the drill pretty useful.
Oh, really? I would have thought it was too weak as a combat tool.
All of your tools damage scales with your weapons as well.
Right, yeah. I did notice that it went through blocks faster.
So, I found it a pretty effective weapon for short range, specifically so that I didn't have to switch off of my whatever main ranged weapon I was using. Right? It would be like, okay, start the encounter from far away as the enemy closes, especially the ghouls, right?
Right.
Then switch to just drilling them and keep the drill on them, because that'll just tick down damage until they're dead.
So, okay. This will kind of get into weapons, but my main weapon of choice was the, shotgun equivalent. Forget what it's called, but it's just a very short range electrical blast. Kilver? Sure. Yeah, it kills very well. I found it because it goes through walls and it dealt on its base, I believe, slightly more damage than any of the longer ranged options.
Possibly.
Not very useful for bosses, but I did find spamming it, at the very least, hot swapping to it after any of the longer range options, but it was my go-to for damage.
Yeah.
So that's probably why I didn't really bother with the drill. They have the same range.
On hard, I definitely needed the extra damage at range and then finish them off. So at that point, it was just I could switch to Kilver while they're coming at me, or I could just press the drill button.
The fact that the Kilver goes through walls, which most weapons don't, was really what kept it on the main cycle, I guess.
Yeah.
I was cheesing things through walls more often than not, except for bosses, because none of the bosses are really vulnerable to it. You kind of need to be hitting very specific sections.
And Kilver is also sort of a traversal ability in that, early on, there are switches across walls that you need to hit with it.
Yeah, you can technically leave them till later for other abilities, but yeah, it will do the job. But I think there's only one or two total.
Yeah,
that it can actually help with.
But if I recall, there's some in the main path.
Yeah, I think the Kilver, you open one switch with it, and then after that, I don't think your weapons ever function as keys ever again.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Regardless, weapons is a whole other topic. I got some opinions on the weapons that this game has, and it's going to come after traversal, which Vazi.
Yeah, so other traversal abilities, it's a lab coat. As the first form, it allows you to move through a single block width horizontally at first.
Yeah, you phase through a dimensional breaching of a sort.
That eventually gets upgraded to being able to teleport, and then eventually that teleport becomes a damaging teleport.
Yeah, the teleport is more of a dash. It's 3 blocks wide instead of just 1.
Yeah, and also you can do it in the air and up and down and whatever.
Yeah, that's its main ability, is being able to omnidirectionally do it. But yeah, you just double tap a direction.
Yeah. There's the drone, which is what we were referring to when we were talking about Morph Ball. You shoot a little critter that has its own health bar. It recovers its health bar while you're not using it, and it has its own little attack that can also drill. And then eventually you get an upgrade to be able to teleport to where it is. In that way, it at first it's sort of morph ball to go hit a switch or whatever, or collect an item. And then later it becomes sort of more like the traditional morph ball where you're just going to use it to traverse something and then appear on the other side.
Yeah, its health bar scales on your weapon damage, which is something I didn't notice through the main game. But in the randomizer, if you find it before any weapon upgrades, it has, like, the bar is just like, you can only see the gray outline of like where a bar would be.
I see.
There's nothing there, and one hit will instantly kill it.
I see. That sounds frustrating, maybe.
Mostly you just have to be really careful, but also when I was playing the randomizer, I got it and like the swap ability basically instantly, so wasn't too bad.
Wow.
Another thing with the drone launcher kind of thing, like you get an ability that launches it further as well, which some things are locked off on, as well as if you instantly warp to it and then start drilling or firing your address disruptor, you instantly reset the cooldown on firing the drone again. And so if you keep doing that sequence, firing directly upward, you can get infinite height. There's nowhere it really matters, because by the time you have all of that, it's like you got maybe one additional upgrade to get, and it's not infinite height. That's not what you're skipping. So
yeah,
it's just somewhat convenient to get around in certain places. But, fun little trivia.
Yeah, otherwise there's a grappling hook, which is a little grapple against the ceiling that lets you swing. That unlike Metroid allows you to do it anywhere you can touch a ceiling. It's the most Metroid-like ability, I guess.
Yeah, and don't let that description fool you. The fact that it can grapple to any surface does not make it more useful.
Yeah.
You can grapple onto a ceiling and then pull yourself up if you're like a little too low, but it is almost instantly
obsoleted.
Obsoleted, thank you, that's the word. Is almost instantly obsoleted. Like you get one big area to kind of try it out in, and then you get like your teleport to drone warp thing, and then you really don't need to swing on ceilings ever again.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like it gets you to the fast travel point, after which I don't know, there are a few places you can get some goodies early with it, but yeah, as far as the main path, it's there, and it has its own dedicated button for it, and it makes sense, but I wish dash was instead on that button instead.
I don't know. It was nice swinging around to get places, but then it's not necessary most of the time.
I found it kind of awkward to use as well.
Yeah, it is a little awkward.
Yeah, especially trying to dash out of it, with the dash being double tapping directions. I think that might just be my old man hands. Maybe other people are more used to that. I just kept dashing to my death. Or consternation.
Never really dashed to my death. I did occasionally accidentally dash when I was trying to dodge things.
Yeah, I shouldn't say death. I'm mostly just thinking like falling down the thing I was trying to climb and thinking, oh, well, I've just experienced an ego death of sorts. But no, there aren't really any instant kill traps in this game. Thank God.
Yeah.
Even though this game also has the continuity after death, like if you die to something, you warp back to the last time you saved, but anything you collected, all the map progression, all that stuff is still there. Like you canonically died.
It's very nice in that way.
Yeah, I kept worrying about going back to a save point before realizing that.
Yeah, it's pretty liberal with it. I think you can also save wherever. It's not something I really ever did.
Yeah, anytime you exit the game, it'll just save wherever you are. It doesn't care.
I was definitely like, I have to save at save points to exit the game.
That's the rhythm. You're not going to stop in the middle of exploration. You get to a save point, you feel the release, and you're like, okay, I'm making the decision whether to continue on or to stop now.
Yeah. And that was all for the traversal abilities. I don't think we missed any.
There's a high jump. There's a few things that probably aren't very... Like there's the address disruptor has like upgrades that make it affect more things, but not that interesting.
And then there's the password tool.
Oh yeah.
Which is, I don't know, some people don't like it. I was not very good at finding the passwords.
I found one.
Yeah, I found 2 of them, I think. And one of them was by chance.
I found one that translated half of the obscured lore entries. And then I also just, in one of the lore things, it just had some weird like text in it that I found, oh, that kind of just matches up to the length of the password. So I just tried it and turned out to be correct. But I also didn't know where to use that password.
I see.
because there are like 3 goodies where you have to go into your menu after you get this password manager thing, put it in, activate it, and then it'll make a door appear, essentially.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a little underbaked. It was a little too cryptic puzzle for what the rest of the game was really doing. This would feel more at home in an environmental station alpha.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, one of the problems is that one of them relied on you corrupting an enemy instead of killing it in order to have it reveal letters.
And you had to pay attention to those letters.
Yeah.
And also it kind of just looks like, oh yeah, it's a messed up palette. It might not even be something you paid attention to.
Oh, it was very clearly letters. Like, the letters weren't messed up. Although the words, I think, were gibberish.
Yeah, it's a random sequence of characters. I'm just saying that, yeah, this might just be what that enemy does. I don't know. I did corrupt that enemy, did not pay attention to the letters, and then was still kind of confused about there being a map square missing on the place it was there. That's on me.
I mean, it is a thing of, like, the affordance to tell the player, hey, you're not missing a path somewhere. You need to use the password tool to reveal a path. I mean, like, maybe that was the intent, that you're not gonna figure this out immediately. It's for people who are like, oh man, how do I still not have this map square or whatever? I'm gonna try everything. I'm gonna go address disrupt that random square that's just kind of empty over there. And oh, hey, now it's spelling out a password.
Yeah, I think to an extent this is my own fault. I was fundamentally incurious about that aspect of the game, whereas I think others would appreciate it more. Maybe a bit more direction to be like, hint, the password thing is relevant here, and you just like address disrupt everything, look for clues.
Yeah.
I wonder if it would have worked better as functioning similarly to the secret worlds system this game has as well, where like just randomly throughout the map, and it's different every time you start a new game, you can walk into the wall and it's just a bunch of glitched rooms that have bonus upgrades. Like they don't count towards 100% of items, they don't appear on the map. It's just if you find them, cool, bonus. But it like your completion percentage is not affected by it at all. And I'm wondering if some of these more esoteric puzzles could have been worked into that more.
I guess. Yeah, or like the password system could have been a way to enter those things.
I think if the passwords were used more often than really all that was clear to me from that thing was, oh, you can translate text now with it. I'm like, cool. And any other functionality was kind of hidden.
Yeah.
But it was part of 100%ing the game to get the true end bonus cutscene or whatever.
I mean, I think I get where they were going with. They talk in the story about Trace/Athetos being a pattern mind, which means that they can alter reality.
Yeah, but much like a lot of the story is like, it's not fully gone into. Speculation abounds. What that actually physically means.
Yeah.
Pattern mind is not given a dictionary definition. Yeah, it's one of those things where like I do think it's interesting. I just wish it was, I don't know, more instrumentalized than it ends up being, which is 3 extra goodies randomly through the map, but you still have to get them if you want to get your numbers to max.
Yeah.
Which, as it turns out, that's the kind of completionist I am. If there's a number attached to it, I will do it. But if it's like the secret worlds where technically I'm missing some things and I technically also have an uneven number of heart pieces, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I'll just beat the game and I'm good. But I do like the inclusion of those secret worlds quite a bit. I think that's a pretty neat thing to put in one of these games is every run's unique technically. If you find this random thing, that's just bonus, and it fits into the lore as well as being this outside of your dimension. All of the graphics are corrupted. It's a small thing, but I liked it more than I disliked missing some.
Yeah, the password tool is definitely a challenge in terms of like, nobody really wants to make it super obvious when you need to use your cryptic tool here.
Yeah, that's what's really giving me pause. Like I like it when I solve it, but when I don't, I'm like, clearly they're at fault for designing it too hard for me am dumb brain.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely an odd balance. I definitely prefer the kind of thing of like, all right, so this thing in plain sight might have looked a little odd to you, and then later on it gets contextualized and you understand it, as opposed to, oh, I'm at a dead end, wait, maybe this isn't a real dead end. Maybe I just need to start looking for words nearby.
Yeah, instead of there being a style of puzzle you're introduced to and then it's more complex later, it's just a bespoke, weird thing you got to figure out, and then it's not really used again. This is really just a personal preference thing. I don't think there's an objective rule on whether this is good or bad. Just that's how I took it at the time.
Yeah, it's just interesting.
I do think it's better to have it than to have nothing there. I just wish it was more. I just really wish there was more. I think the weird esoteric address disruption, breaching, all that stuff is the best parts of this game. And the combat is kind of meh.
Yeah.
Which transitions smoothly into how many goddamn weapons this game has.
Yeah, in particular, a lot of the bosses are, hey, do you have this weapon? Did you figure out that this weapon is the weapon you need to use? Then you're going to have an easy time. If not, it might be rough for you.
Or maybe use a different weapon that mostly does the same thing. Okay, so I think there are like 20 different guns in this game.
Maybe.
It's close to it, I think. Could check the wiki, but like there are a lot.
Yeah.
And they're all unique, and I think that is cool, except the combat is not, for the most part, distinct enough to really leverage the very subtle nuances between the laser gun versus the lightning gun that homes in on nearby things versus the flamethrower versus the gun that shoots bullets out of it as it travels along versus the bullet that travels along the ground versus the yo-yo.
Yeah.
They all kind of just do a similar amount of damage, and it's whether it's, okay, is it close range? Does it fire through walls? Can you manipulate basically bouncing, or just do you need to have distance? And for the most part, because there is also quick change between weapons, you can kind of just get through the game entirely with two guns that you could just kind of like, and maybe you'll find a gun that does the same thing a bit better. I think I traded the Kilver, the short range thing, for the flamethrower just because it had longer range and also went through walls. It kind of made the final boss a joke.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? I was expecting the final boss to be kind of hard on hard mode, and no, I didn't really need to learn how to dodge.
Yeah, no, you just keep killing its ads, firing at the boss's screen weak point, and the ads will keep dying and giving you health back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the same problem that I think Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth had, where there's just so many things to equip that are just so subtly different. At least that game had a progression of stats. This one not so. It's just really minor variations that finding a new weapon was actually kind of less impactful than finding a heart container.
Yeah, I mean, early on, it was nice.
Yeah, early on. But by the end of the game, you're kind of set in your ways and you know how to fight things. And ooh, this might be different. And then it's a big laser that fires across the screen, but there's not really any time that range is super relevant, and it doesn't do enough damage to matter. And you're also at the end of the game, so it's I'm not even killing things anyway. Dash, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
This is kind of where the randomizer makes that make sense.
Oh yeah, we did forget the address bomb. Oh well.
Oh, I consider the address bomb kind of just an upgrade to the disruptor gun, even though they're technically separate. It's the same thing. It's a third tier of thing you can't corrupt until you get the bomb.
Yeah.
And the fact that it has ammo basically doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's power bombs, but basically everything gives you power bombs back.
And power bombs that don't kill things, it corrupts them, which, for all the enemies, the gun is already sufficient. The power bombs is just for getting through the big tears in reality.
Yeah. So the weapons, for me, I think we probably had very similar experiences, because the weapons that I used was definitely Kilver. Being able to go through the floors and the ceilings, very useful.
Yeah.
Especially in hard mode, where I was basically looking to kill enemies without having any risk to me, basically all the time.
Yeah, I assume hard mode is just you take more damage, they take more hits to kill.
Yeah. I don't even know if they take more hits to kill. They might just deal more damage.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I didn't actually go back to normal and compare. I played these 8 years apart.
Yeah, this game came out in 2015. I think we both played it on release.
I think I played it in 2016, but yeah.
Okay, sure.
So the next one is Vorange, which is the semi-random spread long-range green lasers, which I found very useful just in terms of like, I don't even need to aim to hit things now.
I thought the same thing would happen with the lightning gun that just auto homes in, but it just didn't deal enough damage and only ever to one enemy, so...
I also got Varange very early on. I forgot entirely where the critical path is. And it was just like, well, I'm just going to go every place that I can access right now. And so got Varange very quickly.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think this also probably explains why we get such wildly different completion times on these. Yeah, I'll just search every nook and cranny, whatever. Like going back over the same route. Yeah, you tend to backtrack a lot, like mid-game.
I do. In this case, I was just like, I have completely forgotten where I'm supposed to be going right now. And then it turns out that, no, I was supposed to, like, a place that I thought was a dead end, I was just being dumb about one of my powers, right? Like, I took a big break and then, like, forgot about the address disruptor.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Your own brain got corrupted.
Yeah.
Oh,
that
no.
kind of thing. Or like, I can't move through that. I can only move through a single block, and that's a single block. It's like, wait, no brain? That's not how that works. I can just teleport through that. Dumb stuff like that. The other very useful one was the one that bounces off of walls.
Yeah.
Deflector, reflector, I don't actually remember what it was called. Same reason, it's hard mode. I am looking to kill as many enemies as I can without actually having to make myself vulnerable to them. So particularly the golden sentries, I'm just going to put the wall between me and them and try to find an angle where I can bounce against a couple walls to hit them in the back.
It makes sense. You are a great mathematician, physics guy. Calculate those angles.
Or just use the drone to kill them instead.
Yeah, gotcha. I was playing normal myself, so I think I just used Kilver and kind of face tanked a lot just because it was making them dead faster and I didn't care as much about staying safe. But outside of that, I think I was pretty similar with whatever the newest gun was. I was trying it out as a secondary and then found the flamethrower, which superseded the Kilver.
But there's a lot of guns that I found later on that just are not that useful. Like there's spread shots, there's ice, which is basically the spread shot. I don't even know what the difference between those two is.
There's the one that generates like a flame pillar, which just doesn't deal enough damage to matter, but as a unique arc if you really need to kill something below you. But yeah, it's like all of these things, like you have a huge amount of choice, but then you basically settle into, well, this one's not as good. So they start to get disappointing unless you're in the randomizer, at which point you might get any of them and just have to use it for a while, which I think kind of makes them shine a bit more, especially some of the later ones getting them early. The randomizer for this game was actually developed by the speedrun community.
Yeah.
And then like 6 years after release, Tom Happ just updated his game to include it just as a base. Like you buy this game, it's there by default. You can run through any time.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah, like you can get things out of order in the sense that you can get the dash before you get the like phase through walls ability.
Oh, does that mean that you can only dash and not phase through the walls?
No, you can go through the walls. It's just like it completely supersedes like earlier upgrades.
Okay, so it doesn't have sword progression and coat progression, I guess, in this game.
Yeah, it'd be code progression. Yeah, depending on the order you find each one in, it'll have transmogrified into the next step up. They are unique things.
Yeah.
But it does allow for some like out of sequencing that's pretty interesting. Like the run I was doing, I didn't get the address disruptor, but I could still basically go everywhere in the game because I could teleport and do my drone warp transportation, but I couldn't corrupt anything, so that was quite vexing.
Especially some of those armored enemies.
Oh yeah, fighting things was no longer an option. But I could do my little dashes, so it was fine. But no, it's a fun thing to just be included on the base game. Most of these don't have that. You need a third-party app or whatever.
Sometimes they manage to implement their third-party apps in a way that actually inserts menu options into the game, or like takes over menus in the game, which is interesting.
Like, in what way?
As in, like, they'll do something and be like, speedrunners don't need the accessibility options pane. We're gonna replace that one with our speedrun options.
Oh, like in like Pokemon speedruns where like it's just like the ROM itself?
Yeah. Like, I think I saw that in the Tunic randomizer.
Ooh.
Which is also kind of a weird thing to randomize because it almost always relies on your knowledge.
Yeah, there are relatively few non-logic gates in that game, if I recall.
Yeah.
There's some equipment you definitely need to get, but you can, I don't know, I guess it's just hidden somewhere random instead of where you'd usually get it, where you can kind of cheese it early in the vanilla.
Yeah.
Regardless. I enjoy these. This one seems like a good one, especially because the game itself is not particularly long, but it's also definitely geared towards speedrunners. It's designed with them in mind, but you can get some fun out of it, even if you're not.
Yeah.
One last thing I definitely need to mention before I forget is the goddamn map in this game. Like, okay, so it's got a map, like you'd expect, tiles go into different rooms, and you can technically mark it, but only 2 per map. You got one reminder on the left, click in the left stick, another reminder, click in the right stick, and that's it.
Yep.
No context for them. We were just talking about Prince of Persia last week for its brilliant innovation of a screenshot. And technically, since I'm playing this on the PC, I could do it myself, but I don't want to do it myself. Come on, I'm lazy and dumb.
Yeah. You also can't set a reminder anywhere except your current location. And the one that surprisingly annoyed me a lot, you cannot set a reminder while you are in the drone.
I didn't even try to do that. That does not surprise me at all.
I wanted to do it a lot. I kept going to check my map while I was in the drone and being like, I can't.
Can't open your inventory, I guess. I wonder what bug that fixes. Like, to disallow the menu.
Yeah, it doesn't give you the menu. It only lets you go into the pause menu, not the rest of the menu.
Yeah, this is a great source of consternation when trying to do like last minute item pickups, you know, to get 100%, get the final cutscene or whatever, to just go back and not have had enough like markers for all the different things I did not figure out yet, and just going back through the same paths, because not only can you not set enough markers, like you don't get the like color coded either. It's just number 1 and number 2. No way to jog your memory for these. So like sometimes I'd even be like, I don't even remember what was blocking me here. And sometimes it was things that I still could not get past as I was like on my way to something else.
Yeah, and it even implements less than Super Metroid, right? Where it won't even tell you when there's a secret someplace or whether you got a secret there.
Thank you. That's where I was laboriously trying to get to, was that even using a guide of 100% items, here's all the things in the game, I don't remember which ones I've got or if I just saw the map square it was. So it was quite frustrating. Ultimately, it only really added about 2 hours, 15 minutes to my playtime to go from first clear of 80% items to 100%. But my entire clear time was 9 hours and 20 minutes. I've got the notes here.
Yeah.
That's still like, what, a quarter of the playtime? That probably needed to be like half or a quarter of that if I wasn't doing the same thing over and over again, wondering like, okay, did I get this? Double checking screenshots. Am I just looking in the right spot? Is it in the wall? It was vexing, to be sure.
I'm definitely in favor of games having ways to help you keep track of what you've gotten.
Even like the little tags that are color coded, just like a different color, being able to place them on the map wherever instead of just where you are currently. You can develop a system for what those mean, which I believe I did in Rebel Transmute. But that's like, this game is almost 10 years old now, but even like the bit that's even sub Super Metroid, I think, hung from the neck until dead. Where's Tom Happ? He needs to answer for his crimes. That and the fact that every save room is 2 tiles high, even though for 99% of them, there's nothing up there.
I definitely forgot which one has something up there.
It's just like, oh, there's a door in one of them, and you have like the platform to get up to that door anyway. There's just like no reason for it to be that tall and for you to be unable to like jump high enough to trigger that you've been in that map square until you get the high jump.
You just gotta go to every save point again.
And I did. And I didn't think I needed to, but here we are. Actually, I'm not even sure if map percentage counts for like getting the true end, but I did it.
I have no idea.
Even if it didn't, that again, that's how my brain works. If I'm committing to completing it, that's part of it. And the weird secret worlds, be damned. Regardless, any other notes that you found notable about this game?
I don't think so. I think it's time to start talking about where to put it on the stack rank.
Indeed. Now, I know historically this always comes as a surprise to you, so the fact that you brought it up clearly means that you know exactly where you're going to put.
You are mistaken, my sir. I have been staring at this.
Of course, all of these games are your precious children, and it's one hell of a Sophie's choice, but you're at gunpoint and you're going to have to make it.
So, like, I mean, this kind of falls into the generally a Metroid of, like, there's nothing bad about it. Is it the most fun game to play in the world?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. So I think I might actually put it somewhere in the middle of the pack.
Okay. Currently, the exact middle is Rebel Transmute.
Yeah.
Somewhat similar game at number 19. Time Spinner just below it.
Yeah.
Let's go through it. Do you believe this game is better or worse than Rebel Transmute?
I don't think so.
Okay. Do you think it's better or worse than Time Spinner?
Maybe. I don't know.
Listen, we can't have like a divergent list where there's two number 20s here.
Oh, yeah, I know.
If we cross the breach into the Sudrins, then in that reality, it's number 20.
Yeah, why not? I'm going to put it at the new number 20 and say it's better than Time Spinner. I don't know. They're approaching things at very different angles.
You're comparing apples and oranges. It can't be done.
Yes. So, don't hold me to this, but
who's going to be knocking on your door and be like, I heard you talking shit.
I don't know. People on the internet.
Yeah, that's true, but I don't think they're going to come to bat for like Rebel Transmute, Axiom Verge at this point. Maybe Axiom Verge 2. That seems more recent at least.
Yeah.
Or if we were talking about Super Metroid, which we will never do, obviously. But you locking in number 20?
Yeah, I feel good about that.
You didn't sound like you felt good about it, but maybe it's relative.
It's more of a just like, I could probably be talked into putting it lower or putting it higher, but why not?
I'm certainly not going to because, like you, I'm also pretty middle of the road on this. Not to say like it is like absolutely mid in every aspect. It's actually kind of just like taking the average of really cool concepts, love the corruption and all the mechanics there, pretty solid fundamentally, but also kind of boring combat at a certain point, and some of the puzzle design is lackluster. So I'm also looking at directly number 19, which for me was Ori and the Blind Forest, which ultimately I think I would play again more. Another similar thing of certain aspects of it I really didn't like and other aspects were great. And then right below it is Rusted Moss, which I think I'm actually going to put it below Rusted Moss.
Okay.
Above Pseudo Regalia is, Pseudo Regalia is a very interesting game, but is more for its tech rather than its Metroidvania purity. And Rusted Moss, I think, is just a more interesting, if far less polished game.
And coincidentally, pretty close to Time Spinner.
And also pretty close to Time Spinner, which is 2 below at number 23.
Which, I don't know, I find it funny that we converge in that way.
We converge about Axiom Verge and Time Spinner. So yeah, that's my new number 21, but hopefully, I just wrote anime. I don't know why. I'm trying to spell Axiom, and my brain was just Freudian slipped into anime. That's what's going on.
Anime Verge would be a very different game.
And I'm not even thinking about that for the next game, which was what I was trying to transition to.
Interesting waifus. I don't know. Did some kind of analysis about Elsa Nova as a kudere.
There's some degenerate discussion about Elsa Nova on the forums, but we are not going to get into that. Instead, speaking of waifus, we're going to be talking about a Castlevania waifu in honor of a recent release of the Dominus collection of Castlevania. And also speaking of Time Spinner, this is a game I compared it to very briefly and very, if I'm being honest, superficially. Castlevania, Order of Ecclesia.
You know, to be honest, I really thought you were going to make me play the full Dominus collection.
Listen, I know what you're about and what I can reasonably get you through in a given time frame.
Fair.
There are some other games that are also ones I would like to play, but that I just know are like 30 hours and ain't no way that's happening. So here we are with an old DS game that I think is the best of the DS trilogy at least, or at least what I remember, but I guess we'll see next month.
All right, Castlevania, Order of Ecclesia.
So, if you disagree, make sure to tell us what your favorite Castlevania is in the comments of our YouTube video or on Twitter at Inverted Castle P. Never forget the P. We are, of course, everywhere else on at Inverted Castle Podcast. Do whatever you need to on Facebook. Listen, go with God for that wretched hive of scum and or villainy.
Oh, we forgot to talk about the music. The music is rad.
Oh, yes, of course. Edit point. Insert that right into the middle of something else.
Just be like,
music good.
Music good. I don't know. It had a great atmosphere.
Yeah, shoutouts specifically to like the bottom right area with the voice sample. Like that's just like a feminine voice kind of just like wailing for a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Burned into my memory. Even 8 years later, I was just like, oh, I still got that on lock. And as soon as I hit it, it's not so much good so much as familiar. But I'm sure you'll be hearing it probably at the beginning of this episode. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, you're not going to go for the main theme for the beginning of the episode? I really like the main theme personally. But I know the one that you're talking about with the like, yeah.
See, the thing is, if I went with the it would be coming in here.
I'll just harmonize it with me and cut this part.
That'd be great too.
Don't do that.
Regardless, I've been Eric Fox.
I've been Thomas Blight.
And harmonize with me or die.
Eric, it's time to wake up.
Oh no. Gotta do the podcast again.